We're live, everyone. Welcome to Talking Live with Macy. This is actually a very hot Sunday afternoon today. We'll wait for 15 people to join us, like every session of Talking Live with Macy, before we begin, because we want people to tune into an exciting topic, a topic that is actually really trending right now. Everyone's talking about it. Whether we have gotten our My Sejahtera appointment for our booster shots, previously it was the vaccination, now it's all about booster doses, and whether we need to take it or not, rather, whether we need to take it. A lot of people have questions whether they should take it or not, or whether mixing vaccines is possible, whether they can do sino. There's so many questions regarding the vaccine boosters, and I feel that this is a great time to actually have this session because this is not just in Malaysia, but also in worldwide. In Singapore, everyone's talking about the booster shot. So if you have friends, family, please share this session with them right now so they can come in, tune in, ask questions, and be informed. Especially if you have family that does not believe in the booster shot. So you want them to come in, to tune in, to ask questions, and join this discussion right now. So, guys, we wait for about 30 more seconds before we begin the show, but let's get a few more people to join in with us as we're going to talk all about vaccine boosters today. And I feel that this is a very important topic for us to cover, especially right now when there's the Omicron variant. So, I'm waiting for a few more people to join. We'll wait for about 2 minutes in before we begin.
Now.
So, sorry. Let's see. What you can help me do is share this live stream with your friends, with your family. I know a lot of you are probably out shopping, but we want people to tune in, especially those who are at home, to come in and talk about vaccine boosters, or rather get them informed and educated about it. So not going to wait so long for everyone. We'll begin today's show on Talking Live with Macy. And hopefully after this, you'll be able to share this with people around you. So welcome to Talking Live with Macy. We are going to officially begin today's show where we talk about vaccine boosters. There are many people that are talking about it, but some in a good way, some in a bad way. A lot of people are actually asking questions like, oh, when is my Sejahtera booster appointment coming? Or should I take it? Should I mix the vaccines? I heard Pfizer has very bad side effects. Should I take it then? Because I have allergies. There's just so many questions around vaccine booster shots. Like when we first had vaccination for COVID-19, it is similar right now and it is a trending topic. That's why I felt that it was apt to actually have this show before Chinese New Year because I'm going to take a break and come back in the middle of February after this session. So for me, I had the vaccine booster about almost 1.5 weeks ago at the National Cancer Society of Malaysia. They provide vaccine booster shots as well as vaccination. And I had quite bad side effects. I recovered only after a week, but I still wanted to take my vaccine booster because I felt that it was needed, especially with the fact that the Omicron is going to be the dominant variant here in Malaysia, possibly very soon. So today, we have the managing director of the National Cancer Society of Malaysia here with me. I'm sure all of you know him very well. You've seen him before on this show. His name is Dr. Murali Tharan, and he is on ground in various states in Malaysia, giving vaccine boosters and previously vaccination. On top of that, he is very involved in vaccination in COVID-19 and, of course, cancer policies and NCDs here in Malaysia. So he's very well versed. I'm so glad to have him on board once again. Thank you, Dr. Murali, for joining us.
Hi, how are you guys? Thank you so much for having me. Always a pleasure.
Thanks for joining us. And I think, like I mentioned earlier, I got my booster shot at the National Cancer Society of Malaysia. And this is all thanks to Dr. Murali for bringing it in under the auspices of NCSM. So you may take it at center, find out more on their hotline. I'm going to jump straight into the questions for you, Dr. Murali. Why are vaccine boosters needed?
Okay. Um, Oh, this is a really long and complicated question. No, so what we do know about vaccines is, in general, there are different types of vaccines, and some vaccines give you lifelong immunity, meaning once you've got that vaccine, your body keeps the memory kind of cells pertaining to that disease intact for almost as long as you remain alive. But in many cases, as in the case of, for example, another disease that we're all very used to, influenza, there's a lot of mutation within uh, the microorganism carrying the disease itself, the virus in this case. So, and because the virus mutates, the type of antibody that your body needs to form in order to neutralize that virus also needs to change. So, when, for example, the first time you're vaccinated with an influenza vaccine, okay, your body develops antibodies against that particular strain. But we know that, for example, in influenza, the mutations of the virus happen almost yearly. So we develop new vaccines every year, and these vaccines, when they inject it into you, induces a specific antibody for that particular strain of influenza to cope with how often it mutates. Now we're finding out that with COVID 19 as well, it's proving to be an annoying little pesky bugger. In the sense that it keeps on mutating. We're seeing different mutations, a lot of reasons as to why it's mutating. And then, of course, there's the whole what is this conspiracy theories lah, on why the virus is mutating. But we know, I mean, there are many viruses in nature that mutate this frequently, and COVID's proving to be one of them. So, as the virus mutates, okay, you're going to find that the original antibodies that uh, you have from that variant of the virus that was injected is going to continue to kind of not do so well. So there's two ways, okay, that you can kind of overwhelm an infection, a viral infection. One is by just having a lot of antibodies, right? And or the second way is to have very accurate antibodies. And as time moves on, we'll actually see an evolution of the COVID-19 vaccines themselves. They'll become more and more specific. For example, Pfizer, I don't work for Pfizer. What is this? Pfizer is already talking about coming up with an Omicron vaccine, which is very specific towards the Omicron variant. But currently, what we're doing is we know that if you have say 100 antibodies, your chances of fighting off an infection are say 70%, 80%. But if you have 1,000 antibodies, the chances of fighting an infection then become so much better, almost close to 100%. So that's what we're doing by giving you a booster. We're further pushing up the level of existing antibodies from earlier vaccination in order to create a whole huge number of antibodies within the system. So when your body does get exposed to a COVID-19 kind of infection, chances are that you won't pick up the infection. And if it does pick up an infection, you're going to have a very mild sort of infection. And we're seeing those patterns now. So, yep, brief description. Sorry, you muted.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
So, no matter what, vaccine booster shots are definitely needed for COVID 19, especially because the COVID 19 is constantly mutating, right?
Yep. Yep. So, in fact, if you've seen what most experts are saying, infectious disease experts, public health experts, we're thinking that more or less this will become endemic in the sense that every year you'll have a new
Yeah.
version and you'll have a
Wow.
new type of vaccine. Like, so it's going to become very like influenza, hopefully.
Okay. Hopefully.
Yeah.
What the main question of the day is basically, is it all right to mix vaccines?
Okay. So this is I think okay. Where is this coming from? Okay. So the first kind of people who actually started doing this was in the UK, and one of because people have been trying various different versions of administering the vaccines, and we find that this actually goes back to a history of Ebola. Okay, so in the Ebola vaccine is a two-dose vaccine. Okay, and it's a new vaccine, and Ebola is one of those as bad as COVID is, it's nowhere near Ebola. Ebola is so much more lethal, almost a 90% kind of lethality, meaning like 80 or 90 out of 100 people get it will die kind of thing. And with Ebola, we started coming up with vaccines as well. What's beautiful about the Ebola vaccine is it's actually two different vaccines. So you give the first dose is a totally different type of vaccine. Okay, and the second dose of the Ebola vaccine is a totally different vaccine altogether again. And they found that instead of giving two doses of the same type of vaccine, by mixing and matching, the body actually managed to produce a whole set of different antibodies as well as a stronger immune response towards fighting off possible Ebola infection. So then some of our infectious disease experts looked at the same idea when it was applied to COVID, especially when they were being confronted with the newer mutations. Then they thought and felt that, look, if we could then maybe mix our vaccines, because each of the different vaccines have a different approach, right? Meaning they stimulate a different kind of immune response. For example, dead vaccine, like Sinovac, for example, okay, works as like conventional vaccines do. Viral vector vaccine like Astra works a different way, and mRNA
Mm.
works a different way, and a third way. So if I was to mix these different vaccines, would it actually give me much better immune responses? So one of the first guys who actually did it was out of the UK, where you mixed your AstraZeneca vaccine, your Pfizer vaccines, and so on and so
Yep.
forth, and that gave us quite good data, meaning it was so much better to mix the vaccines in terms of immune response and how they did in terms of the chances of picking up an infection, and if they picked up an infection, did they do better or worse. So the data proved that, oh, this is really good. So then immediately, of course, colleagues in different countries started doing similar trials using Sinovac and other kind of vaccines, mixing the Sinovac vaccine, for example, with a Pfizer mRNA vaccine and so on and so forth. And generally, we are seeing that with these mix and match vaccines, the results in terms of infectivity are far, far superior than using the same type of vaccine.
Interesting to note. So, for those who are on the bandwagon of using only the same vaccines and rejecting their my Sejatra appointments or booster shot appointments, this is good information to have. And
Okay,
yeah,
but no, because as you know, everything has a but, right? Now, the problem with taking a new vaccine, especially for a lot of people who have had previously, for example, Sinovac, with almost very mild or non-existent side effects, taking a new kind of vaccine, meaning either taking a viral vector vaccine or taking an mRNA vaccine, will most likely give you like much larger side effects than you had previously. La. The chances of you getting like larger side effects than compared to like taking an inactivated vaccine are much greater. So, and that is something that we're very transparent about. So I hate to use the term "no pain, no gain," but but from the mixing and matching, we know that you get far superior kind of efficacy in terms of protection. But of course, then you have the chances of these side effects, which in the most part are transient, meaning they last about 3 4 days. I think yours was Astra, yeah.
Pfizer.
Oh, Pfizer, right? And so you had like these I think much more severe kind of onset of symptoms compared to when
Yeah.
you had the Astra vaccine. But hey,
No, but when I had the extra first dose, I had very bad side effects
bad.
as well.
Oh,
So
exactly,
yeah,
exactly. The problem is people tend to forget about their earlier side effects, and so now they're very scared of
yeah.
the. Yeah, yeah. So that's where people are coming from.
So this then brings me to the next main important question. Is it true that the AZ plus Pfizer mix provides the strongest immunity? Because there
Abs-
is a social media posting going around showing that.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's quite good data to say that even I think your Astra combination and your Pfizer combination gives you an increase in terms of immunity, in terms of like very physical, like concentration levels of antibodies. Yeah, protection is I think increased by about 8 or 10 times, right, in terms of number of rise of antibodies. Now, when you do an Astra Pfizer, you actually get an increase of about 20 odd times. So much
Wow.
higher increase in terms of that raw numbers of antibodies lah, in terms of concentration. But do we actually need 20 times becomes an issue. But as I mean, a lot of people want the best outcomes. So data showing you like, look, there's reasonable outcomes with going AZ for example, or Pfizer, but you're doing AZ Pfizer gives you the best outcome lah.
Okay, I'm
Interesting
glad.
though that if you did Pfizer AZ, you actually don't get such a good response. It's almost similar to for you to do Pfizer or Pfizer AZ. It's about similar, about 8 or 10 times compared to doing AZ Pfizer. So the lucky people, so called, who did AZ Pfizer, or you did AZ before you have a choice, then Pfizer give you the best kind of improvements.
Wow. Okay, I'm glad then I did AZ Pfizer.
Yep.
So, what are the common side effects from booster jabs for COVID 19 that you
Okay.
know?
Okay, so they're exactly the same as the original shots because unlike now, like for example, we're rolling out vaccines, I think next week for children, 5 to 11
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. And in them, there's a dosing difference. So I think it's about 30% of the adult dose. So it's a big change in terms of your side effects as well. Okay, but
Okay.
for the booster doses for adults, the doses are the same, so which means you're exposed to pretty much the same type of side effects and the same intensity of those side effects as well. Largely it's fever, pain at the injection site, uh, myalgia, myalgia meaning body tightness, muscle pain, body
Yes.
ache, uh, with the mRNA vaccines, a lot of dizziness, which is actually a sign of hunger. So you get superly hungry over like 3 or 4 days, and that's for the most part the about 80 or 90% of all side effects. Okay.
I had all of it.
Oh wow. Well, no pain, no gain.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
So, I
because
know my immunity is super
yeah,
strong now.
yeah, exactly. And funnily enough, a lot of people don't realize this, that with um, like the stronger your immune response, okay, the more the side effects are. So in translation, literally, it's more or less lagi sakit, lagi bagus. Uh, the stronger immune responses lah. So
So, my
since you
immune response was very good then.
absolutely, since you took a beating, it's most possibly for the best
Yes.
outcomes ever lah. Yep.
Okay, I'm very, very happy to hear that. I hope my parents in law are listening to this.
Oh dear.
They say that I'm very weak. That's why I have, like, all these side effects.
Ah,
So,
okay. No, it actually means you very have a very robust immune system.
okay. Um, the next question is it true that those who take Sino plus Pfizer may need another booster shot?
Okay, so it's you see, again, we're looking at data as it moves along. Even yesterday, there's a new Sino plus Sino study. And
Okay.
in the three Sino jab study, it still shows that it's quite adequate to, beat off an Omicron, even an Omicron infection. So, of course, the rates of kind of protection are lower comparatively compared to like a Sino Pfizer or a Pfizer, that kind of combination. But having said that, then it becomes a much of the muchness lah. To go from, for example, Kajang to KL, you can do the thing in a Proton, you can do it in a Ferrari, you can do it by helicopter. Now it becomes then a matter of choice. We know all these vaccines seem to work. I mean, of course, like we get kind of kiasu people who like, oh, I want the full on. But then, if that is your choice, by all means, go ahead. But I think equally, we're finding out that in combinations for like Sino, for example, it seems to be adequate. So there is some data that shows Sino Pfizer may require a longer boost or a different type of boost for it to be longer lasting, which means a second dose of Pfizer on top of your 2 doses of Sinovac. But yesterday's data seems to show that hey, 3 Sino pun boleh. So if so, 2 Sino and 1 Pfizer may be adequate. The problem is boosters are new as well, so it's too soon for us to kind of conclusively make these recommendations. So as the data is building, really we've never vaccinated anyone in these kind of variations ever in the history of mankind. So you know,
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the vaccine itself is also new.
yeah.
But what about those that can only take Sinovac? So, like, if it's Sino plus Sino plus Sino, based on your opinion, will they then regularly need booster shots?
Okay, looking at current data, it looks like they may require more frequent
Okay,
booster jabs, as in maybe 3 monthly. But hey, at the same time, if you notice, even Pfizer is talking about it, despite all the hype about, hey, look, your booster shot is the best ever in the last 6 months, but they're also talking about another booster shot in like 6 months possibly, right? So it may work out to be that just the people with Sinovac may have to take more frequently, but it's not like
then,
the other people don't need boosters. Like they might end up needing boosters as well. So,
okay. So that's good to know for those who are only on the Sinovac only camp. Um, and when we talk about side effects in Malaysia or in Asia, there's this old wives' tale that you cannot take Panadol too frequently. But can we take Panadol every 4 to 6 hours to reduce the side effects?
oh, absolutely. So, right, if you're having fever and all that, by all means, I think it has been discussed in length that when you take an NSAID, especially like Ponstan, diclofenac
Yeah.
sodium, your Voltaren, all these, it may inhibit antibody production. Okay, but paracetamol sits on a different pathway of inhibition, so it's fine to take paracetamol. Your acetaminophen, the
Yeah.
kind of chemical name, and acetaminophen for human adults. I'm very careful to use the term human adults. You generally take 1 gram at an average dosing, which is 2 tablets. Because I have people that are trying to take Panadol half tablet, quarter tablet,
Oh yeah.
adults.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So it's like for it to be of therapeutic dosage, it needs to be 2 tablets. And you're absolutely right, 6 hours once. 4 hours may be a little too frequent, but 6 hourly I think is fine. And you can take up to about 4 grams very safely. That's about 8 tablets in a day.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Dr. Murali. I think my last question before we open the floor. So, for those of you who have questions about booster dosing, about mixing vaccines, we have addressed that. But if you have questions, kindly put them in now. My last question for Dr. Murali is, what are your thoughts on the Omicron and for 2022 in terms of the pandemic?
Okay, I'm hoping that Omicron will be the last of the Microns, lah. No, but so um, from the beginning, from the very beginning, I think we've been quite clear that we've seen this virus mutates quickly. Okay, one of the reasons for mutation is actually the pool of unvaccinated people or not properly vaccinated people within the pocket of the general population. Okay, so because when I'm infected, let's say I'm infected with COVID-19, okay, the virus mutates within me. It gets, because it needs to overcome my body's defenses, right? So it mutates to overcome, and it is successful only then I actually get an infection because it's managed to overcome my body's defenses. So that becomes a much more superior strain. Now, when I cough and pass this along, or I sneeze and pass this along, this improved strain is what gets carried to the next person. And in the next person, for example, Maisie, who we have already discussed, very strong immune system. uh,
Yeah.
so Maisie may have a stronger kind of immune response. And let's say the virus doesn't take, it's fine. Then the strain is dead. But that strain from me, who's already slightly improved, is morally improved, goes to Maisie, and it manages to overcome Maisie's immune system as well. Okay, and infects Maisie. By the time Maisie starts coughing it out, it's actually given now a slightly larger evolutionary advantage. Now it's morally improved and Maisie improved. So every time it moves from person to person, right, it's mutating, getting a little stronger, a little hardier. Okay, so when it moves within vaccinated people, sometimes Maisie, for example, with a booster dose now has about like 1,000 antibodies. Okay, so it can't even enter your bloodstream. It can't infect you, right? So, and At that point, the virus transmission stops. So this morally improved version died already.
Mm.
Okay. However, if Murali is vaccinated, Maisie is vaccinated, but person X, say Azman, who's sitting next to us, is not vaccinated. Okay, the strain that Azman gets is now Murali improved, Maisie improved. Okay, and
Mm.
Azman then passes that along to other people. But now it's even worse because the strain that Azman passes along is Azman improved as well, and so on and so on. So mutations are going to continue to happen within when there are pools of unvaccinated people within the vaccinated population. And this is not only, sadly, this is not a local issue within Malaysia, but it's an
Yep.
international issue because of air travel. People
Yep.
can go to from here to Kenya in a day, and you get down in Kenya where like less than 10% of the population is vaccinated, and you're spreading this within that. That's how Omicron moved within a couple of days as well.
So
And even
crazy.
in Malaysia, I was really horrified suddenly these couple of days to hear this news about fake vaccination certificates, and we're talking about thousands of people apparently who haven't been vaccinated. I mean, the police is still working on numbers. Nobody even knows how large this issue is. So you know,
I myself am super shocked. I think it's such a scandal. It's like super scandalous, right? I mean you are literally like passing and mutating the virus by doing that.
yeah,
So I don't know.
exactly, exactly.
But yeah, I just hope that this doesn't continue to happen. And that was actually my last question for you, Dr. Murali. So now we'll open the floor to questions from everyone who have questions about vaccine booster shots and just about COVID 19 in 2022 and beyond. So bring on your questions. This will be, like I mentioned, this is a good episode because a lot of people are wondering, and I know a lot of people that still refuses to take the booster shots. So I think I'll take the first question from Madam Yo. Uh, she asks, is there any truth that as we need to take more booster shots, the period of immunity will become shorter and shorter?
So I'm going to try that again. I'm sorry.
Like, um, as we need to take more booster shots, will our period of immunity towards the virus become shorter?
Unlikely, because what's going to be determined, a determinant of whether or not your immunity actually lasts that long, is actually how, if there's an aggressive variant mutation of the virus itself, not within your body's own immune system. We now know that every time we give you like a little boost of a dose of a vaccine dose, it seems to be lasting about, depending on the vaccine, about 3 to 6 months. So that's quite how to say, average. But also people need to understand this, that look, could we get away with not having a booster shot? Yes,
Yep.
we can. Yes, we can. Okay, if our cases in the community were very very low. If, for example, with everybody vaccinated at first or second dose, and say we had like 10 infections a day, 100 infections a day, it would not be an issue, because even at your kind of adequate antibody levels, because with your first and second dose of vaccination, it's not that you have inadequate number of antibodies. You have an adequate number of antibodies. It's just that when there's a huge number of infections all around you, the chances of you to pick up a new infection become very, very high. So if the number of cases, total cases, reduced to like small levels, 10, 100, so on and so forth, then at those levels, a first and second booster would have, a first and second dose of vaccine would have been adequate. Currently, however, unfortunately, within this endemicity, and again now the cases are rising, and more importantly, I think there's a lot of under-reporting. A lot of people have now started taking COVID as a very easy thing once again. So many people are not reporting. We're getting more and more cases in hospitals where people come in with symptoms and then present with something else. Then, oh, by the way, we're COVID positive as well. And when you tell them, they're like, yeah, I suspected, but I was thinking it's nothing. Anyway,
That's so irresponsible.
it so is. But yep, exactly. But so we with those kind of numbers, which is exactly why we're pushing for boosters to be to be
Okay.
taken up.
Thanks. Thanks a lot, Dr. Murali. Do we have any last question before we close the session for Talking Life with Macy for this month? We'll come back next month in the middle of February to talk more about women's health in conjunction with International Women's Day in March. So, if not, if we don't have one last question, then I will be closing the floor to questions from the audience. More importantly, thank you so much, Dr. Murley, for joining us, for answering all of my questions that I think a lot of people have, and for answering questions from the audience as well. Thank you for spending your Sunday afternoon with us. And
No
thank you
problem.
for doing a great job at the National Cancer Society of Malaysia. So, for those of you who don't know or need booster appointments, you may actually contact the National Cancer Society of Malaysia.
Yeah, sure. Please do, especially if you're a patient or a caregiver or a family member. Feel free to
Yes,
call us at 1-800-88-1000. We open certain days of the week for vaccination on site. We're also busy doing community vaccination
mobile.
about 100 places all at once. In fact, like today, I think
Yes,
we're doing it in about 8 or 9 places across about 5 states.
so
So
crazy. But thank you for doing a great job, Dr. Murli. And for those who are celebrating Chinese New Year, happy Chinese New Year in advance. And wishing all of you a prosperous and healthy New Year ahead.
yeah, so maybe wear your masks while you're doing Isa. Uh,
Oh my gosh, that's such a great idea. Okay, I will definitely take note of this as well.
yeah, lah, but also I think stay close, celebrate with family. Let's and more importantly, I think the message which is very clear to everyone is don't bring COVID as an additional guest to your Chinese New Year celebrations. Please, kind of, you need to get boosted. There's still a couple of weeks before the event, so try to
Do it
get your
now.
booster shots in. Yep, exactly, so that at least you
I
have some
agree.
immunity improvements before Chinese New Year. And of course, the saliva self-test kit. I think that's a really good option to practice because as I think Maisie started off the session today saying, we need to be responsible a little bit, lah, especially to your own loved
So
ones.
true. Thanks a lot, Dr. Murli, for your word of advice. Thank you all once again, and stay safe. Practice the SOPs. Bye. See you in
Okay, bye.
February.